What's going on, Yale?
Hey, Bart,
How
good
you
to
doing?
be. I'm good, man. Good to be back on the show. I was actually just on YouTube messing around before we got in the call, enjoying that interview you did with Nick Vertucci today. You
Oh,
you
thanks
really
you.
you really are like the true OG poker content king.
I don't know about that. I just know that I've been doing a podcast for a long time.
Yeah, and I just scroll on YouTube and see you on there today. I'm about 25 minutes in, enjoying it so
But I
far.
appreciate it. Do you do something on YouTube too yourself?
Yeah, yeah. Life King
Oh,
Poker.
that's right. Okay.
It's a vlog, and yeah, we're busy. I'm mostly playing LA. It is a 10-20 hand, no limit at Commerce.
Oh, that's right. now, now, one of our content guy. I don't know if it was who was complaining. Somebody told me that one of our. I think it might have been Peter. Stay in school.
Yeah.
I think he said that like 1020 was totally dead at Commerce, or it's not a regular game anymore, which is just amazing if true. I don't know how long ago this
Yeah,
was.
I mean, it is like a really good point. I mean, the biggest thing I've noticed I've been out in LA for about 2 years, and I probably spend about 6 to 8 months out here over like per year over those 2 years, and
Yeah.
then I travel the rest. I'll say this: the games like are very, very up and down at all the casinos. Like
Hmm.
it could be hot at Bike for a little bit,
Right.
and then
Right.
it just like completely falls off a cliff, and they won't get a game off till 7 or 8 o'clock, or not at all, a couple of days a week. There were other times where they would get two games by 4 o'clock. Commerce 10-20, I've kind of noticed the same thing. Um, I mean, I think Peter's probably like somewhat accurate in
Hmm.
that he's definitely accurate in that this is probably a time right now where games here are kind of whatever.
So, and the other thing too, because I haven't been over there since I moved out of LA. There, right after COVID, there was a time when they had brought. So, if people know about Commerce, like they call it the hotel side, which was the high limit area. That they built. I actually remember them just ending. Oh, it was there when I first started playing. I think it was built in 2002, 2003, and then there was the original area, which was where 510 was, the yellow sort of the yellow chip area, kind of with a pit. But then I heard that they totally took poker out of the hotel area and moved all the games onto the other side, and they were all California games. But have some of those games moved back, or were you playing 1020 over on the the OG side, the small side?
No, the 10-20 is on the I guess what you would call like the regular side, like
Okay,
the
it is.
huge
Mhm.
pit.
So they don't have
Um,
poker games over on the hotel side anymore at all.
to my knowledge, they don't. But I didn't
Yeah.
play. To be clear, like I didn't really play LA when it was like that.
Okay. Okay.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah, all the games 10-20, 20-40 are when they run are on
The other side, the original side, you could say.
the
Okay.
original side, and they remodeled a little bit and whatever. But it's commerce. Commerce is commerce.
Yeah. Okay. So, how deep are you guys?
We're just over 100 bigs.
So 1020 no limit, 2K effective. Okay.
I'm in the hijack with King of Heart, 10 of clubs.
King of Hearts, 10 of clubs. Full ring table.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
nine-handed.
Okay.
And at this point, a couple of the action players have left, so the game is like starting to tighten up. I'm actually thinking about leaving somewhat soon, but I'm still here,
Okay.
and I choose to open to 50.
To 50. Oh,
Yep,
that's very small.
yeah, 2.5x,
Okay.
and I get a call from the big blind, who is a tough Australian pro that I've probably played. I don't know at this point. Live poker hard to remember, but maybe like 20 to 25 hours with.
Okay.
So he's the only caller. And so we got 110 in the pot.
Okay. hmm
Flop is 10 of hearts, 4 of clubs, 3 of diamonds.
10 of hearts, 4 of clubs, 3 of diamonds. So you got a 10. Top pair.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
hmm
He checks.
Okay.
And I mean, this is sort of the first decision point in some of the history I have with this guy. He's very tough, very aggressive. I would put him in the better caliber of traveling professional.
hmm
Uh, and I decided to check back here.
So one of the first things that I thought about in my head was that he's in the big blind, right? So he's wider. And then I started thinking about, I'm like, how does, like, if we were thinking about this from a theoretical perspective, because I don't know the answer off the top of my head, how does opening to 2.5x in a two blind non ante game affect the big blind's calling completing range here versus say like opening to 70 or opening to 80, right?
Right.
Because there's $80 in dead money out there when you open a 50 and he has to call 30. So he's getting like almost 3 to 1. Now, I don't know if that means though that he's calling with hands like 10-4 suited, 10-3 suited, and 3-4 suited. I mean, there's no ante. That would be the only thing. Because like if you min opened, then maybe some of those start to come into play. I still think that those probably get folded off. It put it this way: if you made it like 60 or 70 or something like that, I think it's a slam dunk bet. There's no doubt about it. I don't think he has those hands because the types of boards that you want to check back are the ones where there's a lot of two pair, present. This guy's defending wide. There's straights, but I don't think that 10-4-3 really is one like that. And I think you get peeled here by ace high. So I don't think I'd be doing a lot of checking back here, on this board. It's not like 10-7-6 or 10-8-7, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yes, very, very different. I agree.
Mm-hmm. So, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If he's a tough guy and you check this back, you're going to have to fucking hold on. Like if the barrels come,
Right. Right.
Okay. I mean, sometimes people are like, I'm going to check back for pot control. And then they're up against a tough player and they've actually made it harder on themselves. By the end.
I mean, and this isn't for pot control. This is just like balanced approach, aggressive guy. My intuition in game was the original open is right on the borderline. It's probably a mix. And my intuition on the flop, although granted, that's why we're talking about it, is that the flop was probably something like a mix, but I didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think that's more of a bet here. I do think it's more of a bet. But okay, so you check it back. Yep.
Turns a 6 of clubs. So now we have 2 clubs on board.
Yep.
And he fires the overbet for 160 into 110.
Here we go.
Yeah, game on, right?
Here we go. Well, I assume you call.
Yeah, I mean, not much to talk about here. I do call.
Just again to repeat, you have the 10 of clubs. So it's 10 of hearts, 4 of clubs, 3 of diamonds, 6 of clubs. And again, it's just interesting to think about, like, does your 50 mean that 5 deuce suited calls? Does your 50 mean that 5-7 off calls from the big blind? 160 into 110. So now the pot is 430, right?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. And the river is the 4 spades.
Well, that's got to be a good card for you, right? I mean, if you don't think he's just all right. So when you check it back on the flop, does he need to start? Like, I don't know if 4-5 gets put into an overbet on the turn. You know what I'm saying? 4-5.
Yeah. I mean,
so I was trying to think about, like, well, it appears that that's a good card for you unless he somehow has a 4. But I don't know how many 4x is taken for this type of overbet sizing on the turn. It does on the surface. It wouldn't seem like much. So I think the 4 helps you more so.
Yeah.
Than hurts you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. So what happens?
He now goes all in for 1950 into a pot of what I believe is 430.
Oh my! He goes all in.
Yeah, it goes all in for 1950. So wow. It's a nearly. I mean, what is it? A 4.5x overbet? Am I doing the math right?
Yeah, almost 5 times.
Yeah. So I mean, and let me like slightly back up before I get your opinion. I have played. This is not the first sequence I've played like this with him, where it went like a later position open, check flop, overbet turn. The only other time that I can remember playing this sequence with him, he blocked the river, and I raised the river because of the combo I had, which was like middle 2 pair or something weird, and he folded. This guy just generally is quite tough and quite capable, and so what you said about 5-4, I think is really, really relevant. Is he playing a pure overbet on the turn? Does 5-4 take that? Does he have the 5 deuce? I also think going back to the flop, your point's really good. Like maybe it's a little bit FPS, and we like look for the guy to hang himself. And I was maybe expecting something like 2x and just to never fold, but now the price is wildly different.
It's so interesting here because I don't know, I probably haven't faced this spot like in my entire career, right? It's so rare, right? to see, to see this go 5x. Here are the things that I would be, a couple of things are going through my head here. So again, it's 10, 4, 3, 6, 4. Hero check back the flop. The guy overbet the turn, right? 116 and 110, call. And now he goes almost 5x all in, right? At the end. And so sometimes you see some weird, I remember hearing about or reading about some weird shit where like two pair, like 6-3, turn some wild bluff like they're playing like a PLO type of spot. But the interesting thing about this hand though is that he doesn't need to do that with 6-3. Just because you check back the flop and call the turn doesn't mean that you have a pair. Like a lot of those hands don't need to do that, right? You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of those hands don't need to bluff in a spot like this because they have showdown value. So it's an interesting, peculiar spot because I think the weaker portions of his pair range don't need to turn their hands into bluffs here based upon, this action. So, you can look at this from an MDF perspective as well. And I think the other question that I would ask is, so you checked back the flop for, whatever reasons with a 10. Would you have checked back the flop with overpairs or sets?
So I think against this guy, I have to be checking lots of my range in general or just mixing. In live poker, I think that is a hard thing to achieve and do perfectly. Mm-hmm. I don't play with an RNG. Maybe I should against guys like this. So, I mean, I guess the answer is hands like top set, absolutely, because this is the kind of guy that does stuff like this. But, aces, sure. Like jacks and queens and stuff like that, I don't know.
Well, the reason why I ask is because the MDF equation is just whack the fucking crazy, right? Like he's almost betting himself at one. I mean, you're up and like you got to defend with like 15, 20% of hands, whatever it is, right? Not many hands. So the reason why I'm asking that is that, the theory would say if you don't really have overpairs here because you bet them off, then maybe King 10 doesn't fall into that. Now, would you have a 4 here? Like check back 5-4 suited?
Ace 4 suited.
Right. And then if you were slow playing, like say 6-6, well, ace 4 suited, are you calling the turn though to the overbet with ace 4? Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's a little tougher.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most pairs I'd probably just call once against this guy at least. Obviously, like you said, we for sure have turn 6s per set.
But then it gets into a situation though, tier 2, where you get in these weird MDF spots where it's like, okay, like what, where am I at in my range with how much I need to make him indifferent? But then the blocker thing comes into play here too, right? Where like, it's better for you to have a 10. So he doesn't have like 10-4 suited as opposed to having like jacks or queens, right?
Right. And I have the club. I have a club also, which I think is relevant. Although I must admit,
that's worse for you then, right?
Right.
Slightly worse.
Yeah, I wasn't like all that sure, to be honest. Like
if he's structuring correctly.
Right, it seemed worse, but I just didn't know.
Here's the thing, man. I mean, I know it's easy for me to say. I would say that because you check back the flop and then you called the turn, I might be doing a fair amount of calling here because he might not think that you're checking back like a hand like King 10 or Ace 10 all that much. Like that's where if it's like if he's playing like a GTO robot type of thing, like where he has no maybe appreciation for how maybe you might not play like that, you know what I'm saying? Like where say he was Mr. Solver, right? And he thinks that you're playing like that, right? So he doesn't take into account that you could have Ace 10 or King 10 here because that's always supposed to be bet off on the flop. Then it might leave your range somewhat collapsed where he thinks he might be able to get away with this.
Yeah, and I think I also like always think, especially in live poker, your domain, that there's an underlying meta. I mean, when you've played 20 to 25 hours with a Euro pro, or in this case, an Aussie pro, more or less same, right? What they think about you and how they think your approach is. I mean, what I think is like and maybe sure this guy probably is a better poker player than me, right? Like all in all, but like a lot of these guys just think every American pro is a complete shit rag, and if that's the case, well, does that mean he's just like taking his entire range and just shoving it down our throat, expecting to get called at a zero frequency?
The other thing too that I've heard is that and it's not necessarily up at this level, because just by definition, a pro that's playing at this level is going to be better. But I've heard a lot of my scouts around the country complain of sort of some of the miserable Euros that kind of have infiltrated some of the mid stakes games, that these guys are nitty as fuck. Like that they don't put in huge money without it. So there's that.
Yeah, this guy. I mean, this guy number one is a good guy. I like him.
Mm-hmm.
He is good for the game, which is nice. Just in general, and also he's definitely not one of those guys.
I mean, it's
pretty gross.
Yeah, it's a gross spot. I mean, I don't know what I would tend to call here because of what I said.
Sure.
I don't know what the logic, the theoretical answer is. Like I said, we're a little bit off from that. I don't think it's an easy decision.
Yeah.
Either way, and it's very,
Do you prefer this?
It's a very surprising action on the river. Let's put it that way.
Is there any? I guess I would just say this before we wrap up. Are there any combos? So, like, obviously having the 10 here is kind of nice, blocking some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any combos that you think that look better but are less intuitive that should be folded while this should be called? Just like generally, if you're sitting there in game and you're like, hey, I have to try to figure this out in 90 seconds or some reasonable amount of time, is there anything that you would like pitch pretty quickly?
I think that you having a king in your hand is better than having like 10-9 or 10-8. If you look at the interior straight draws, right, on the turn. Like a 7-8, stuff like that.
7-8 would be the hand.
Like, I don't think that a king is all that relevant to this, which is good for you, which answers your question, right?
Cool. Yes.
Yeah. So what ended up happening? Yeah.
I folded. I folded.
Did you ever find out what he had? Probably not, right?
No, unfortunately I didn't. But I did think the hand was quite interesting. And
it was interesting. Yeah.
It's funny how you can start by thinking like, oh, I'm going to get this guy, or I'm going to play balance on the flop and take something that's probably a high frequency bet and maybe a low frequency check and just check it. And like you said, like we asked for what we got and then we didn't know what to do.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you weren't expecting 5x over at the end.
No, I wasn't.
What's your channel again? Live King Poker, right?
Yeah, Live King Poker got you can go to www.livekingpoker, got some new merch up. I'm selling markup free action to the WSOP.
Oh,
I've been super hard in the tournament lab.
What tournaments are you going to play?
I've got a $71,000 package.
Holy
listed.
Shit! That's unlike me back in the day.
Yeah, but I won't be. I mean, it's unfireable. Really, in reality, like I think I'll probably end up like I guess if we busted like everything under the sun, like it'd be closer to 50 probably, just because of like the way time works.
Is this all no limit events?
It's all no limit. I would love to learn a single draw because that looks so fun. That's like kind of like a goal for next year. But I'm just playing.
Single draw is no limit. I mean, what I mean by that is that that's a game where their concepts are similar. You just have to learn the flow of the game.
That's the one that I want to try to learn for next WSOP. But I've been in the lab. I've been in there with a coach, and nice. So we're just we're going for it this year.
By the way, I have also, you could call it coach, but I'm getting training myself because I'm going to play the 10K PLO 8. So everyone, it's always good for people to get training. I haven't played that event in years, and I struggled in that event because of weird stack sizes that are not intuitive in that specific discipline of poker, which is like 15 to like 35 blinds in PLO 8 is a weird thing where I've got to really understand what hands do better, hot and cold, versus other hands. Like, what is better, ace deuce 4-5 double suited or ace king 6-7 with one suit at like 18 blinds? You know what I mean? It's just really weird stuff that you don't really think.
when you're a cash game guy and you start looking at these 15 big blind spots, early or early position versus big blind defense or button versus big blind defense, and you just see like all the weird things that are happening, and it's so much of it to me has been counterintuitive, and I've learned a lot. And so I'm feeling re-energized, in a lot of ways.
Well, we did. I got a shout out to this guy that has been working with us here this week, who's doing a great job. Jordan. He's doing our thumbnails. I think he's going to be a permanent fixture here at Crush Live Poker. The last few thumbnails, really, and I'm sure we'll think of something great here for this one too.
Good
5x
stuff.
overbet. All right, buddy, take it easy.
All right, Bart. Look forward to meeting you this summer at WSOP. Thanks for having me on again. I appreciate
You
it.
got it, buddy. All right.